Hi there, I'm Dani Henderson, spiritual therapist, and today it is Sunday, the something of May 2022. Is it the 14th or the 15th? I believe it's the 15th of May 2022. And you just witnessed there in real time me losing my memory for a nanosecond, and we know that many of you are out there right now. The energies are really quite extraordinary and all that. So the two friends in the screen, a lot of you know by now. I'll start with the brunette off to the side of me, and her name is Ginny Jabslonski, and she is a renowned horse whisperer, horse healer, soul human whisperer too. Welcome, Ginny Jabslonski.
Thank you, Dani. I'm so excited to be here with you and Andrea.
Thank you, love. And the blonde bombshell in the lower portion of the screen is the well-known past life regression therapist, again, also soul whisperer, general Western therapist, has been on television, on real telly, not just pretend telly and not the internet, on actual mainstream television for over 25 years, speaking her truth and bringing us this beautiful global truths of us as spiritual beings and the abilities that we have. And her name is Andrea Foulkes. Welcome, my love.
Thank you, lovely Dani and Ginny. Lovely to see you both, and blessings from Cornwall today in the UK. I'm still here. I keep thinking I'll get back to Glastonbury soon, but I'm still in Cornwall at the moment.
Ah, that's lovely. What beautiful places to be. And Ginny, remind us where you are in the world.
I'm in Arizona, but the picture behind me today is a high desert region in northern Colorado in the US. And it's a portal. And I took this picture about a year ago, and it was quite an adventure getting the picture. I drove by it and there was nowhere to stop. And so I drove a half a mile, parked the car in a very precarious position, hiked up the mountain to get this picture. I said, one day this is going to be, I'm going to use this picture for something. And today's the day.
So can you share a little bit more about why you were drawn to take that picture? Excuse me. And what we were saying off camera a moment ago about it.
Wow, I just got chills. I have to reflect back to, it was like a download. When I drove by, I thought, is that natural? And I really felt a vision of just going through a portal, as if going into fourth density is we're going through a gateway, going through a portal. And I thought there's something very important about this opening in this rock structure that I wonder if I walk through it, if I'll even be on Earth anymore. Well, I wasn't brave enough to walk through it because I was by myself, and who knows if I could get back, right? Wow. But I took the picture because I thought there would be some relevance. And I don't know about you guys, but Dani, you mentioned the energy at the beginning of the show. Wow. The energy, it's like we're going through portal after portal after portal. So there's something special about this.
Absolutely. Ginny, thanks so much for sharing. And to you guys out there, you know, there's a lot of you in absolute spiritual warfare with yourself, internal warfare, spiritual warfare. You're confused. You don't know what to do. You don't know who to follow. You don't know who to watch. And something I, Dani Henderson, always am encouraging people everywhere is you got to follow yourself. You've got to really in tune yourself inside. So we're not giving our power away to a deity, a God. You know, one of the lessons I feel myself as an individual that we've come to learn on this planet is not just to follow God or not follow Satan, or, you know, because some people obviously like to pick a side. I've got no interest. I'm firmly in the middle. You know, we came to understand that we embody love itself, and we can embody hate itself if we decide that. And as I was getting ready for this broadcast today, with all of the interferences with the electronics, etc., and all the different things that were happening to prevent this particular broadcast today on the 15th of May 2022 with Ginny Jabslonski and Andrea Foulkes, this song landed in my head, and it's a beautiful song. And I started thinking about, where did I hear that? Where did that come from? It's literally the Lord's Prayer. And the reason I raise it is because we learned this at school. I learned the Lord's Prayer when I was 5 years old. And, you know, the years that I was forced to go to church, it was said a lot. Now, in later years, as I became a spiritual mentor, therapist, and I would go into people's homes that had literal demonic attack, dark entities, unmarked graves, unblessed land that had been fought over for thousands of years, that still had cursed energy on it. I would walk around a place, a home, an office, a land, and I would literally say the Lord's Prayer. Not because I'm a Christian, I am not, because these words have been gifted to us and they actually are very, very powerful. So in this time of our own spiritual internal ascension, I would suggest, if you choose, and I don't care if you're a Jew or Buddhist, you know, these particular words are very powerful. Perhaps there's something in your own religion or belief or system or thinking where you know, hold on, we've got something like that. Maybe you now get it out, write the words down, stick them on the wall, put it on a post-it, or sing it. And I can't help but it's coursing through my body, and it's like, the Lord's my shepherd, I'll not want. He make me down to lie in pastures green. He leadeth me. And I can't remember the other words, but there's something very needed for some of you that will see this. And I just want to give that to you. Before I come to Ginny, I also want to share that when I was 4 years old, I had a horrific, haunting spiritual attack, and I was wide awake in bed. I was 4, and there were all these definite demonic entities. I lived in a haunted house. There was a serial killer across the road. There was a woman that had been banged up in prison because she tried to murder her child and suffocate her child. I was surrounded by violent energy, and the demonics come for the light. They come for the kids. So there was all these entities in my bedroom, literally jumping on me and trying to friggin' suffocate me and take my life. So this has happened. That was 4 years old. And my dog saved my life. They were scratching at the door because they could hear me screaming. My parents came in. When I was 7 years old, I had a very, very profound, prolific dream, which I remember like it happened a moment ago. And that was over 40 years ago. So over 40 years ago. So this dream was that I was walking down a hill and it was snowing. And I could see Jesus, and I could see that there was something Jesus was worried about. And I was walking towards Jesus, and he was standing there. And then suddenly this horrible man who was quite handsome, dark hair, dark beard, came in front of me. And I knew in my little 7-year-old self and body, in the middle of that dream, when I realized I was in some kind of a vision and not an actual real dream, that that was the devil. And I said, because I'd learned it in church, "Get thee behind me, Satan," at 7 years old. And that being shifted and stood behind Jesus. And that came up today again, as it has many times over my life. For some reason, I think someone out there, some people may need to hear that. Ways to protect yourself, words that you can use, powerful words that you can use. And I'm going to stop there for a moment because I feel like they were two of the most important things that I needed to say. And so, Ginny, may I come to you, my love, with your particular subject of the day?
Oh gosh, I want to share a few things, but the subject that I would like to talk about today is soul agreements, and how our primary soul agreement, the primary emotion, or let's say conflict, human experience that our soul wants to have or experience in coming to this planet. I have found that to be very helpful for people when they discover why they've always felt a certain way within them and they just couldn't shake it their whole lives. And it's very much correlates to the soul agreement, which often is not a large number of items. It's sometimes 3, sometimes 5. And when we come to that realization and we witness that, we can say, oh, okay, yes, you know, I've experienced that enough. And honestly, a lot of it has to do with fear. And I think, Dani, that we might have talked about this on another show, but if I make it really brief, I think it would be valuable to add this to the conversation today if we're going to talk about soul agreements. There's a lovely man who's named Christian Sunderberg, and he's written a book. He is active in the near-death experience community, and he remembers his in-between life experience. And I'm going to paraphrase it, try not to butcher it. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but just a piece of it. In between lifetimes, he recalls sort of hanging out in the heavenly realms, sitting on a park bench, and there walks by a soul, a beautiful, brilliant, magnificent soul, one like he's never seen before. The colors and the quality of the frequency, it was enthralling to him. And he said, hey, buddy, how'd you get like that? And the soul turned around and said to him, I went to Earth and I faced my greatest fear. Now, there's a lovely story that follows that and how he came to Earth, and he had to go through a lot of training to lower his frequency enough to come join us on the planet. And it's really a lovely book if anyone has any interest in his story. He's just a lovely man. Point being, what I have found is that a lot of the soul agreements for my clients have to do with fear. So that's what I'd like to talk about today. And I was hoping, Dani, you might ask us to share a couple of stories, because I have a couple of stories to share too.
Always, always. Andrea, before I come to you, and guys, obviously we're going to kind of conjure up a lot of different areas that people are really needing to hear on right now. That's why it's so good. We've got 3 different areas, or 6, 7, 8 different areas that we can share and help and support with people out there. But before I come to you, Andrea, I read a book years ago, a friend of mine, he's like, read this, it's The Journey of Souls or something. I don't want to say the name of the book and I don't want to criticize the author. I read the book, I couldn't even finish it. I threw it across the room. It pissed me off so much because, and there were 2 of them, because it says in the book that when we die, the souls go to this waiting area, they're all standing in line. And I was reading this book and I'm watching and I'm getting all of the pictures, because, you know, especially for clairvoyance, whatever, anyway, it's not just about having a good imagination. You're flipping well there. You transport when you're a clairvoyant. You literally, someone talks to you, you can see all their pictures in their space. It's called seeing pictures. That's one phrase for it. So anyway, I'm transported to this place and I'm like, I hate it here. I can't breathe. This is a lie. This is a trap. This is where some have got trapped. And it pissed me off so much because there was almost a definite, deliberate perpetration that someone on the planet wanted as many people as possible to read that book, to put them into fear, expectation. This is where you're going, but there's different levels and layers of where your soul can line up. Be quiet, I tell you. So Ginny, I like that story better. All right, Andrea, I'm going to come to you, my love. What do you want to share with us?
Oh, I don't know. I think often what we talk about sort of crosses paths and merges in a place of it's a similar thing. We maybe just, I think sometimes it's good having 3 different people, because maybe we use different words and different languages to communicate sometimes the same story to people. But I think, you know, people can't always hear the same story from the same way from the same person. I think it's a bit like, kind of going off at a tangent a bit, but I'll bring it back, is, you know, when you read a book somebody's written, you think, oh, there's no need to write this book. Somebody else has already done it. And then, you know, you say that book to someone and they go, oh no, I didn't like that. You know, so it's not that the information is different, it's just the messenger. And often sometimes we're the messengers, and not everybody can receive the message from the same person, because something in our energy field maybe triggers something that's too much for them to hear the message from us, but they can hear it from someone else. Like often I don't recommend my own work. I try and judge where someone's at. And rather than say, oh, I could help you with that, I go, oh, do you know what? There's this guy, he's written this book, and I mention somebody else's work because I'm with them in person. And they maybe don't know who we are or what we do for a living. We've just crossed paths with them. And then I'll just talk about the most positive person I met today was this young 17-year-old boy. I just saw his aura in the farm shop, and he was just like, hi, really confident. He'd just begun and he was super excited with his job. He was a fast learner, and he was telling me he'd lived in all these different countries. And because he was traveled and he was only 17 and he'd lived in lots of different countries, he had this confidence that local people, just because I've been around a lot of local people today, and they weren't as confident as he was radiant. And then he told me he'd had this terrible car accident, and I said, wow. And he said, yeah, I'm healing myself. And I said, oh, have you been reading self-development books about that? And he went, no. He said, I just told my kidneys and my lungs and all the parts of my body that were broken that they needed to heal. like I can't be having them broken. I said, good for you. You know, like he just exuded this radiance. And I thought, you know, this is the younger kids that are coming in. Something in his soul has made him this amazingly confident, twinkly person. And it's almost, you see that that could be intimidating to some people. I thought it was amazing and beautiful and amazing. But somebody with low self-esteem can be intimidated by confident people. So I thought we could talk about confidence, because, you know, confidence, not everybody is born with confidence, you know, and things can happen in your life because maybe your parents put you down a lot, and you've got to rise above this programming that they're trying to program you with. Don't get ideas above your station. Who are you to think this about yourself? Or that you know, and you've got to rise beyond this negativity. Because what I notice a lot of time when I'm trying to build people up and say, oh my God, you're amazingly gifted, you're talented, you could do this, you could do that. It doesn't matter how much positivity, and this is like what Ginny was saying before we started. We're talking about people who think, well, if I had a little bit more confidence, I could go and do this or this. And the way I describe it is, you know, we were talking about going to a confidence coach. Well, you could go to a confidence coach, but it's a bit like, in my opinion, false economy, because if you can get to the origin of where this low self-esteem comes from, which is, to me, going to a confidence coach is a bit like saying you've cut your arm open and you've got gravel in there, and you've gone, do you know what, just sew it up, don't bother taking the gravel out. You're going to eventually have problems because that gravel is going to be under your skin. Whereas if you go, you know what, let's just go back to the origin of your stuff, like cut the cut hand and take the gravel out, clean that wound out, and let's sew it up then, because then there'll never be a problem because all that gravel will have come out. And I think when we're taking people back to the origin of the trauma of their soul and clearing that, deleting it from your emotional Akashic record, or whatever terminology you use in what you use, they're just the words I use. But when we clear that emotional Akashic record, whether it's past life, inner child, ancestral, or sometimes it's weaving between all three, when that is deleted, you rise up as a confident person.
Andrea, for those of us, again, there's so many people coming to this kind of information and this kind of broadcast, and I always want to be so mindful of them. And there are those that obviously are well versed in Akashic records, the Akashic records, whatever you want to call it.
Shall we talk about what?
Yes, just give us a synopsis on what is a past life and what is the Akashic records, please.
Well, I'll start with the Akashic records, because quite frankly, I've been doing this work 22 years, and I only use that word of late because I've learned how to say it. And for many years, I couldn't even say that word. I saw it written down, and I'm slightly dyslexic, and AKASACH, something, Akashic. And I couldn't say it, so I avoided it. How I interpret it is the sum total of everything that's ever happened to you on a soul level. And a soul is who you are. You're not this physical incarnation, but the totality of who you've ever been in every timeline, whether you want to call it timeline or past life of existence. It's who you are. It's your galactic coordinates of who you've been, where you've been. And what I specialize in is the origin of the emotional trauma when you fell away from the magnificence of your soul that didn't have any feelings of lack or low self-esteem or negativity. It's who you were in your pristine magnificence of who you are as a soul before all this negativity fell upon humanity. And it's when we remember that we are amazing, you know, multi-dimensional beings, and that we have come here to be these amazing multi-dimensional beings. And whether that goes back to, there's another word like Lemuria. People are like, what does Lemuria mean? To my terminology, Lemuria was this amazing multi-dimensional place where we existed. We're high frequency beings, so we're in a higher consciousness, so we don't need to live in fear or lack or any of those things because we've never experienced negativity. And I often see souls incarnating now who are new to the experiences of Earth. So if you've incarnated a lot into Earth, you know about the deception of Earth, you know about the darkness of Earth, you know about that people don't always mean what they say, the duplicitous, that's a big word, duplicitous nature of humanity. Well, I'll just throw in one of my other favorite words, which is metameric. Metameric means that something takes on the color of whatever you put it next to. I'll just throw that in because it's my favorite word in the universe. But it's like when you don't know how this planet is, if you haven't had, and I often see this with clients, if you haven't incarnated that many times onto planet Earth, you can be a little bit shocked by how humanity is, because you know, if you're this little pure soul that's come here and you're like, why do people say what they don't mean and they do things that are the opposite to what they mean, the duplicitous nature of humanity, it's very confusing. And so you then, this is what I learned, this is my then, maybe I sometimes over communicate to make allowances for that within people. So I try to be very clear in my own communication, so there can't be a misunderstanding in what I'm saying. I try and over communicate to try and make other people's lives easier, but also to make my own life easier. And if I don't understand something, I don't mind in saying I don't understand. So I would encourage people, and again, that can come from a lack of confidence. I don't want to say that I don't understand something, but do say that you don't understand something so that you are not confused and there's not an air of confusion, you know. And that's how arguments start with people. You know, I hear people arguing, well, you said you'd meet me at this time by this place. No, I said 1:45, not 1:15. No, I think you, and you know, this is the core essence of humanity, arguing over small little things because there's a lack of, you know, clear communication. I mean, here's another story. I was sat on the beach minding my own business, and this guy probably didn't see me, and he was on his mobile phone, and I was thinking, oh, there's an argument taking place. I can't hide in a rock. I'm like sat here and this couple are having this massive argument over the phone, and I was like, oh, I wonder what it's about. Sending love, what is going on here? and I thought, oh, I don't know what's going to happen with this relationship. And then they were arguing. I thought, oh my God, they were arguing over whether they should have children at their wedding or not. And I was like, wow, this is an important thing, because whether you want children at your wedding or not is probably going to open a bigger discussion about how you feel about children in general. And I thought, my God, this couple are arguing over whether they're going to have children at the wedding or not before they've even got to the wedding. So it's like, and I thought, oh my God, should I go over and say something? No, I'll send the energy of positivity. I do not need to get involved in their story, or, you know, just observing. And that's my other favorite little phrase to people that I say: observing, not absorbing. You know, whenever you're in a negative situation, just say it in your head to yourself: I'm observing, I'm not absorbing. Observing, not absorbing. And that can change the frequency, I think, of situations.
That's amazing. That is a very wonderful golden nugget right there, Andrea. Thank you so much. Because again, in order to help people really reference themselves, reference their feelings, reference that when they're listening to an argument, and so many of us do, we listen, we're not looking at our own stuff or looking at everybody else's nonsense, you know, getting absorbed in all of their drama. And yes, observe, do not absorb, because, oh my gosh, it's painful taking on someone else's stuff. I also want to say a couple of points you raised. You and I, we're British, English, and I will speak from my own experiences in England, that growing up, I was surrounded by extremely negative, volatile, sad, damaged, damaged and what's that other word I'm trying to find? Dysfunctional, which I was all of those things. People would say all the time, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You know, it's such a British onslaught, and it's so in the fabric of society, generation after generation after generation. My parents, grandparents, la la la, probably all of yours too. Was it, who do you think you are? You're so full of yourself. Stop showing off. God forbid you had a half decent face or blonde hair or blue eyes, right? And you opened your mouth and people liked you. God forbid. And that was my upbringing. That's what I observed in a really, you know, dysfunctional, angry, heavy energy, never been healed geographical part of the UK where I grew up. And I know a lot of people will. And so, you know, my prayer for every single person on the planet, bar none, is that we don't say those things to each other or ourselves. Who do I think I am? I think I'm love. I believe I'm love. I am love. You know, we've all got dysfunction. We've all got trauma. We've all got something to work on. But we start the healing by speaking kindly to ourselves and not being verbally abusive or thinking abusive thoughts to anybody else, unless they're right fuckers. I'm kidding. But you know what I'm saying, right? Come on, we've got to bring this back to some, you know, some kind of balance here. But, you know, tomorrow it's going to be the Depp Heard continuation of all that Hollywood drama, abusive couple to each other. Like, who fucking cares, man? Who cares? Let's get to ourselves. Let's not engage. Let's just work on our own stuff. Ginny, over to you, and specific focus for you today.
Oh, well, I want to jump on Andrea's bandwagon real quick. I was brought up in a very abusive home, emotionally and verbally in the beginning, and then eventually physically, and had a lot of other things. And one of the things my mother was famous for saying, if she were to tell me, you know, something, and I guess apparently at some point I said, that's not true. And she said in a very nasty tone, you know, scrunched up face, if you look outside and it is snowing, she's yelling at me, and you see the sun is shining, or I'm sorry, if you look outside and the sun is shining and I tell you it is snowing outside, you better damn well believe it's snowing. So that's the mother I had. And well, you wouldn't be good at this. You can't do this. I mean, I didn't have a normal childhood. There wasn't a lot of fun, and there was no love, that's for sure. And so if can I tell a story about confidence real quick? Because we all, I think at some point have mentioned, you know, the young people and people being born with multiple strands of DNA activated, those of us as we are healing and more strands of our DNA become activated, people waking up to their psycho-spiritual gifts, etc. Well, this happened to me, you know, no surprise, right? And right after I had my near-death experience, I had a lot, you know, tremendous gifts and abilities, pretty much the same as I do today, but I have confidence today. I didn't then. And about 2 years after, I was involved with a group that channeled Arcturians, and it was a worldwide group, and they were having a conference. And I attended the conference, and I didn't really tell a lot of people about my abilities at that point, just a few people. And I was sitting, it was a 4-day conference, and I was sitting at dinner on maybe the second day, and there were several people invited to talk. One was a Hopi elder, and one was a medicine man from a tribe in, I believe it was Nevada. And I heard clear guidance. You need to talk to that man, the medicine man. As soon as he's done eating, go over and politely ask to speak with him, that you were guided, that you need to speak with him. So I went over and I said, pardon me, sir, but I'm receiving guidance that I need to talk to you. And in my mind, I was going to go talk to a medicine man. He was going to heal me. He was going to give me information. This was going to be cool. I couldn't wait to talk to this medicine man. He said, okay, you can, you know, meet me in my room number whatever at 7 o'clock. So I go in, we sit down at a round table, 4 chairs. We sit across from one another. And he says, what do you have to say to me? And I went, what? You're the medicine man. I'm thought I was here to, and before I could even get it out of my mouth, his father appeared behind him, standing behind him with his hands on his shoulders, you know, forward like this. And I didn't finish my sentence. And I said, well, your father's here right now. I hope you don't mind me saying. He's standing behind you, and he has his hands on your shoulders. And he said, Ginny, if it were true that my father were here right now, that is exactly where he would be standing, and that is exactly what he would be doing. Now, please tell me what I need to know. And I went, and then all of a sudden we are transported through a portal to some place where he is standing in this dark hallway with light at the end, and he's trying to launch himself off of a cliff, and he can't. And I can see the eagle in the sky flying above him. And I said, are you stuck? Do you feel stuck? And he said, yes. I've been having, he's about 60 years old, medicine man, actively a medicine man for 30 years in his tribe. I didn't know this at the time. I found out later. Thank God, I would have been so intimidated. I might have passed out. He said, I've been having the same dream for 30 years. I get to the edge of a hallway with light, and I can't break through the barrier. And I go, oh, I know what you need to do. Breathe into your heart space, radiate love to yourself, and there you go. And he did that. He radiated love to himself. He turned into the eagle and flew off. And he said, do you know what my name is? And I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't. And his name had eagle in it. And I don't want to repeat it because I don't want to give away the person. And he said, thank you very much, young lady. You are the real deal. I would like to work with you again. This is 2 years after my near-death experience. Nobody ever told me that it wasn't intuitive or a healer or anything like that. I had no confidence. So I'm sorry, but I just want to throw that out there about confidence, right? So I had to heal myself and unpack all of the wounds of my childhood, which stole my potential and it created so much doubt and unworthiness in me, to be able to unpack that potential and possibility for me to have the confidence to be on screen with you guys today.
Ginny, and Andrea, and to everybody watching, because we're all in the same category. Isn't it wonderful? I'm so proud of this little channel, this small but mighty channel, and the incredible, beautiful, gifted, loving people that I get to interview and sit with, in ceremony and with purpose, to help support all you guys out there who are many equally, more advanced than us. And some of you are coming up and learning more, but we're all in this together. And it's just all gives me goosebumps. And that's a beautiful story. I've never heard you share that story before. What a beautiful story that would mean so much to so many, if we just breathe in, breathe out, and just do it, just get on with. One of the greatest sayings I've said for years and years and years since I was a teen: when you worry what somebody thinks about you, you are their prisoner. When you worry what somebody thinks about you, you are their prisoner. And worse than that, they own a piece of your soul. They own a piece of your literal life force energy, because you are giving it to them, because you are in awe of them, or you are afraid of them, or you're desperate to be friends or know them, or you're frightened they're going to kill you or spell you or hex you. That is amazing, amazing, amazing. Now, before we come to Andrea, you cannot move on. Young lady, Miss Brunette there with the portal above her, just give us a brief, yes, darling, I think you're the only brunette here, or is she? I'm not saying. Ginny, darling,
shoot a little bit.
Yes, little help from a bottle, perhaps. Ginny, you mentioned why you've had 2 NDEs, a near-death experience. Could you share the one that you were alluding to there, just for those that have never heard you share one of your NDEs before?
Well, my last one, the last NDE, after which I woke up and I could see multidimensionally, I could see the life force energy around trees and plants and animals, and they talked to me just like a human being would talk to another human being, but it was telepathic. So that last one, I had been on opioids for 4 years. having been ill for 7 years prior to that. And I didn't want anything to do with narcotics or opioids, but eventually that was my only choice because I didn't understand about alternative medicine or anything. And so finally I took the opioids, and 4 years later, my brain forgot to tell my lungs to breathe. And it says that on the package. Just so you know, if you take this medicine, fentanyl, your brain can forget to tell your lungs to breathe. This is not medical advice. We are not medical doctors. I am just telling my personal story, my experience. So one night I had this incredible vision. I was woken from my sleep and I felt people around me, and I was propelled into a white space. And in that white space was a very large, beautiful, deciduous tree. I don't know the species, and a man that looked very much like our Western sort of, Christian ideal of Jesus, wearing a linen white robe with a navy-ish blue tunic with a belt that looked like a very simple rope belt, but the rope was golden threads, but it looked like just any rope you would grab from a barn, just almost twine. And he said, "You've suffered enough, come with me," and I thought, oh yeah, this makes sense. I'm dead. I must be dead. I'm on a lot of drugs, Dilaudid and fentanyl was a lot, quite a bit. There's 50 videos of me on the internet talking about that if anybody would have the tolerance to watch.
I watched it can I just say, I watched that video of Ginny the other day. It was fabulous. It was really long because it was a 2 and a bit hour one, wasn't it? From 2019 one. And it make the time to hear your story, because your story is really amazing, a wonderful story, because I didn't know your backstory and I thought I want to know, and this was the one that popped up and I so enjoyed it. I'm not going to kind of share too much because people can go and hear your story, and it is an amazing transformational story, truly fabulous. You've done amazing.
Thank you. That one, I share my life story. Most people just want to hear the NDEs, what happened. So I'll say,
I love the whole life story. I like that.
Thank you.
I want to know the whole story, but sometimes, you can pick up things about people, but I like to hear it in their own story. And I like the story, I like to hear that. And you are actually amazingly, I thought, how did she do that? Because it was over 2 and a bit hours you spoke, but you were amazing in putting the whole story together and presenting it really beautifully.
Well, thank you. Up until that time, I had only read my story because of the opioids. I struggle. And Dani, this has happened on your show. I'll sit and I'll pause and I'll be looking for a word like tree, sidewalk. I can't find the words. And I don't know if it's, being multidimensional or if it's the opioid effect on my brain. I have had a few strokes, which is why my eye squints a little bit. Andrea, I don't have an entity attached to my eye. Remember the last time we were talking about entities? I'm like, oh my God, everybody's gonna think
I didn't. Your eyes look symmetrical to us.
No. So everything here on the left side droops, but I fix it as much as I can with makeup. But anyway, up until then, I had only read my story, and people said, oh, nobody will invite you to talk if you read it. So that was the first time that I did it spontaneously. So anyway, thank you so much for that feedback. That's so kind.
No, it was, and the thing is, somebody had put a comment saying, oh, just skip half an hour in. No, don't skip half an hour in.
Oh,
I mean, this is the weird thing with people. People think, because they're not understanding that you're actually telling them a healing story, and you can't just jump in halfway through because you miss the whole story. It's important that somebody, when we're telling the stories of our lives, I struggle to tell the story of my life in the totality. Even when, Dani asked me the first time when you interviewed me, you asked me, and I realized I struggled to tell that. But when I heard Ginny, I was like, I wish I had the capacity to just put the whole thing together in a really succinct way to tell that story, because it's important that you hear the whole thing, and don't listen to some comments of other people going, no, just scroll half an hour in. No, you need the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, look, I think, just to support what you're saying, not about me, but about all of us and those who are coming forward with these types of transformational stories, to me, the before and after is where the gold is, the journey, the healing journey. There are so many people who just want the sensational near-death experience. What happened when you were on the other side? Did you see God? Did you see Jesus? Did you know, what's going on over there? And I say, I'll tell you, I'll say it again. I've said it 100 times, but what I really want to talk about is the healing journey, because that helps people, the healing journey. And I think you're so right, talking about how traumatized I was and how broken I was and how just, you know, Dani says this all the time too. You know, she would say, and I will say, and you may even, I don't know, Andrea, but, you know, when you're stuck in being a victim, you can only also then persecute everybody outside of you to protect yourself, right? And so to me, I agree with you. That's the important part. And that's what I think Dani does, is she's so brilliant at helping people get this message out, the healing message. And I think she knows what truly is important for people to hear. And I'm so grateful about that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we should do a little praise for Dani, because, you know, Dani's interviewing everybody, but I don't think people see, and I really, you know, we've only just come to know you over the last, I don't know, however long it is, feels like a lifetime, but it's really not been that long a time. But you are truly amazing, and she's consistently putting this content out there, and, you know, she's had her own traumas going on, huge ones in the last few years, you know, that some people would not rise up from those things. You know, it would take them a very long time to rise up from that and come back out into the world. But it's like when you can rise up like a phoenix, which Dani definitely has, from, you know, life traumas, and put yourself out there. And she's consistently putting this content out to help people consistently, day in, day out, doing this, aren't you?
You make me cry. Yeah, I can't not, you know, and thank you for honoring me. But again, you know, you two are equally, that's why I have you on so often, because I just want people to get the richness and the treasures that you both are, because people are so desperate, like scrabbling around in the dark, frightened, scared, and trying to find something, some way of helping themselves, hopefully, not putting it all on someone else, but you know. And so I thank you so much for saying, but I'm definitely guided, I'm definitely driven. I have a particularly strong connection to a Pleiadian female, and I really do feel her like at my back and at my shoulders, helping guide this, as well as the love of love. You know, some people call it God or Jesus or whatever. I'm just so guided by love, and as you two are, you know. If you were fake asses, I absolutely wouldn't play with you. But I don't know who I was on the phone with earlier. I think it was my friend Ronna Williams. Ronna Williams, I did an interview with her. She's a beautiful friend of mine. She lost her baby girl, Mackenzie Williams, the same time as my fiance died. They were both in comas at the same time. And we were chatting away today, and I was saying to her that, you know, even me, you know, we have these Trojan horses, we have these mental mind programs from many different systems of abuse that exist in society. And I said, you know, even me, Ronna, even I could be going along. There's a beautiful following happening, even though the boob tube bullies this week alone have removed over 300 subscribers off of my channel. Shame on you, you bullies, you nefarious arsewives. Yeah, so they've done other stuff too. They're always messing and, you know, taking numbers. It doesn't, whatever. If you feel good, you know, you feel good. Yeah, you feel like men, do you? You feel like good women, do you? So I was saying to Ronnie, you know, you have to be careful, because no matter who you follow or you take all their advice or you listen to everything they say, you know, at some point a program could switch on in me that I may not be aware of. And Ronna said that would never happen. And I said, well, I was friends with somebody who I never imagined that would happen to when it happened. And then when that person was asked, you know, there's a problem, we as your loving friends really advise you to take some time out to do this. The ego was so built up at that point by the following this person had, that he's like, I can't do it, I can't step down. And so that person was advised to remove from more than one dimension, you know, move out of the screen somewhat. But yeah, we have to be mindful again, you know, because what is that doing, guys? That is giving your power away. Even if there's 5 people you guys out there on YouTube are watching, and you really like these particular people and you really enjoy their conversations, and that's lovely. To me, the plug-in is, where does it feed you? How does it resonate? Does it challenge your thinking? Does it make you want to do better for yourself? Are you believing everything they're saying and assuming it, accepting, without doing any real thought or real connection for yourself? You know, and if that is the case, you know, there could be a mother of darkness amongst the YouTube platform en masse that is gathering a following, and at some point she's going to switch on. She might even know she's a mother of darkness. You know, we have to be mindful, everyone. And so when, like Ginny, when you share your insight into your near-death experience, it's just so beautiful and so helpful. You know, and Andrea, God, you know, like I say, you've been on terrestrial television, one of the very first in the world, in the Western world, Andrea. That's a big flipping deal.
I mean, the funny thing is, when I did what I did, which, you know, for those in other parts of the world, people in the UK, I mean, people don't necessarily remember it now because it was, you know, 2004 to 2007. And I'd worked on TV before that. But, you know, for mainstream TV, it was quite unusual to be taking people back to past lives on a weekly day basis on a mainstream program on ITV. And then, you know, very straight away, they just gave me my own show, which is incredible, really, because normally they don't go, oh, by the way, we loved you just doing that segment today. Can you come back every week till we make your own show? And then they made me my own show. And the funny thing is, my whole life changed overnight. And I had to get a PA overnight because these emails were just like 1,000 emails a day was coming in. But, you know, people were literally writing their whole life stories. And once this lady that was helping me put all these emails on my bed, this is another thing to learn. And that night I had the worst nightmare ever. Because she'd put all the energy of all these people offloading their life stories onto my bed. And I was like, never put them on my bed again, kind of thing, you know. But you know, the thing is, all the negative things that happen to us, I mean, even recently, I've had some big stuff to deal with myself, you know. I mean, I'll just share this. On the day that my mum passed away, which I was helping her transition last year, you know, some woman, you know, sent me the only word is evil, nasty email. You know, I'm in the midst of my grief, and this woman is just trying to take me down in an email. And then I'll also be honest about other things. Women who I thought were my friends and would help me, actually, in my grief of losing my mum, didn't really support me, and actually attacked me for me being positive to them, because I think they've got a lot of stuff. So you have to be aware that normally you have a higher vibration, but when you go through grief and when you go through loss and when you're just exhausted, because, you know, nursing someone through transitioning, if it's not an instant passing, it's physically exhausting. If anyone's going through that now, which I'm sure some people listening will be, you have hard hearts, because it is really hard. And then you've got the other side of losing people, which I know that Dani's gone through. I don't know Ginny if she's gone through this, but you know, I lost a boyfriend, but not in any way the same way that Dani did it. You know, her situation is completely different than mine. But when you go through shock and trauma of not being prepared for something, you know, you literally shake with shock and grief. And that's when negative people can appear in your reality, because normally you're this buzzy, high vibe being. And although you're still that high vibe being, you're in shock and trauma, and holes have come in your energy field, but they're only temporary, but they have come. And that can be sometimes when people try to have a pop at you or take you down, and you have to be aware of that. And it might not even be those people. It might be just something finds an opportunity to have a pop at you, and they just use these people to have this message delivered. And those people might not even be aware of the negative things they say to you. So just bear that in mind, to rise above that. When you might be temporarily in trauma and upset because you're going through grief and shock, that some people can appear to be not kind, but it might not be them, and to not let it take you down even further, because it can be quite crushing when that happens.
You're so right, you know, and I think it's very sensible for everyone on the planet just to accept that there are some extremely nasty, vile, cruel people who will kick you when you're down, and they receive what is known as an emotional payoff. In psychology, this is what we talk about it as an emotional payoff, an adrenal high, and they get energetic positivity from it, even though it is the complete opposite. It is the most negative thing in the world. And, you know, people knew your mama, as you called her, was passing away. You were very helpful and amazingly honest and vocal. And I know you helped many others with your grieving journey. And so you made it public that, you know, she was passing, and for that woman to do that, you know, a kick in the balls to her. And that was extremely vile and cruel, so cruel to do, you know, because there's obviously people that hurt people because they're hurt people. Okay, take one of those hurt peoples out there, because we know that's staying. It's basically hurt people. That's it. And, you know, I just want to say again, you know, those of us that we're connected to and people that we trust and love. So, you know, my fiance, Jeff, is coming up 2 years, July, and had a bit of a, you know, on Saturday night, I was out with some girlfriends and I came home and my phone's magic. It just, there he was. And it was a video of he and I, and it started playing. And it just got me at the last moment. And I started crying and bawling, and then you're off, you're back in your grief again. And you think, oh my God, I've healed this. And there it is again. There's another layer that comes up. So I sat and I had a really big long cry and bawling and yelling, and just because it's such a painful thing, my fiance basically just collapsed in front of me, and he never woke up again. Let me just leave it there. And he was the love of my life, and we lived together and we planned the next 40 years together. He was an amazing angelic frequency. And so I'm sitting there, and then I decide I'm going to share that particular little video on my Facebook wall, which I put it on. And then within seconds, Andrea's calling me, and it was like 4:30 in the morning, my time. And then we sat and I cried, and I don't know, for an hour, just, you know, and thank you, darling, for being there for me like that, you know. And but I want to say to people before you, but hold that comment there, because I know some people will be like, but I don't have anybody I can call. Then, my darling, in that instance, call out to angelic frequency, call out to God, call out to Mary, call out to whatever you see as loving frequency, but call out, because it's an opportunity for you to heal and let more of your wounding go. Because if we shove it back down, it's going to be there till next time. You know, and I'm a qualified therapist. I've done grief counseling, but as humans, we still have to go through and live through the recovery or not of an experience that we've all had. Andrea, what was your thought there?
What I was going to say is, you know, because like my intuition was like, just call Dani. And then my mind was like, oh, but it's the middle of the night there. And I was like, no, but she posted that video. My intuition says she might need someone to just hold that space at this point in time. And so trust your intuition on that. If you feel you need to call someone or reach out to them, don't let your mind go, oh no, that might be a bad thing to do, you know, because that's how we show up for people when you know, it's just trusting that, showing up for someone, because you don't know who you're helping or what you're actually, you know, doing to help that person beyond anything you could imagine. You know, it's like just being there in that moment. You know, sometimes I do it with strangers. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I need to go and just talk to that person who's in the street or whatever, or hear their story. And, you know, I mean, here's another story, but it's just a story of being human and helping people. You know, in the lockdown, I saw this guy and I was like, he's not your typical homeless person, you know, and everyone's terrified thinking, oh my God. And I see this guy on the street. So I get talking to him and I say, you don't look like a homeless guy, but you're looking like, he said, I'm not normally, he said, you know, my girlfriend's lost the plot with everything that's going on, shouted at me really badly about, it was from cutting a carrot the wrong way. I mean, this is how people can get really emotionally vulnerable. And she threw him out. And I was like, well, you know, it's all this Corona time. And he's like, I can't go to stay. I said, what about your parents? He said, I can't. Their house burnt down 2 weeks ago and they're in a hotel like a few. I'm like, oh my God, you're having a really bad time. And I said, what about your just siblings? And he's like, no, they won't let me stay at their house because they're terrified. And I was like, okay, get in the car, come with me. I'll find, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'll find you somewhere. So I found him somewhere to stay. And it's just those stories of, you know, reaching out, you know, to strangers sometimes, just show up for those people and help them, because in doing that, you feel really good in yourself. You're like, yeah, I helped somebody, I feel really good, you know, and that's the gift that keeps giving, isn't it?
You know, my mom, here's the opposite to helping a homeless person. My mom, so we're half the family Scottish. My dad's side is full blood Sutherlandshire Henderson. We're going to kick your ass. Love saying that. Anyway, my dad's 5'8" and they call him Big George. I love saying that too. And my mum and dad were living in Scotland at this time. And my mum decides she's going to give a homeless man some money. He's lying on a bench and he's asleep. But she didn't want anyone else to take the money. So she decides to go over to him and put the money on his chest. So when he wakes up, he's going to see the money. So she puts the money on his chest. And of course he wakes up and goes to attack her, which frightened her. But he was more frightened than she was, because clearly a lot of people the people that have done this to homeless people, they have abused them, they have kidnapped them, they have murdered them, they have got away with it. You've been seen, everyone that's ever done that to a homeless person, you've been seen. Everybody knows, it's recorded and it's registered. So, you know, again, our compassion can get involved, our need to do good, we can become addicted to that too. That's something else to be mindful of, right? And also to recognize that you cannot help everybody. Some people don't want to be helped. And they're angry at you for helping them. How dare you interrupt their gig on the street corner there? How dare you assume that you know more? How dare you trigger them because you might be an attractive woman or an attractive man, and they're feeling suddenly like, you know, we got to be careful. I think the core thing is, why are we doing what we're doing? Why do we need to perform that, what we perceive as an act of kindness? There's always a payoff in everything that we do, negative or positive, right? Ginny, what do you want to say?
Well, did you want me to finish my near-death story? Because somehow I never told the story.
Yes, please.
Okay. We got so excited and we started talking about so many other things. And I think the reason why you're asking for me to share it is because that's what led to my having the abilities that I have. And so I led off where I had been propelled into a space and Jesus was there and he said, come with me, you've suffered enough. And I said, oh yeah, makes sense. And then in my mind, I thought, but who will take care of my husband? Which is really the most ironic thing anybody ever said on the entire planet, because I had been bedridden for 7, 8, 9, however many years. And he did everything for me, drove me, cooked me meals, brought the dishes, took the dishes away, and carried me to the bathroom, you know. But my concern was who would take care of my husband. I now know that means as a soul partner. But I was putting my hand in his, I could feel my fingers kind of sliding into his hand to, you know, take his hand. And I heard a commotion behind me, and it was horses and donkeys. And they said, don't go, don't go. Don't you remember? There's something important you have to do. So I turned around, I said, sorry, Jesus, I'm going with them. And I did back in my body so quick. It was just like there wasn't a second thought. That's right, I have to do something important. Well, it turns out the horse thing, how the horse thing came up. And again, this was through a hypnotic regressive experience. I didn't remember this consciously. When I was on opioids for 4 years, after about 2 or 3 years, I couldn't work horses on the ground anymore. And I had no balance. I had no core strength. I couldn't ride. And I had 2 horses. So I had to place one in a sanctuary who was unadoptable and then send one to a rescue that could adopt that horse out to an appropriate English rider. So what happened was I lived really close to the sanctuary where my one horse went that my husband and I loved very much, but we had to move from our ranch in a very rural community into the city to be closer to the doctor because my husband was the only one that drove, and we just couldn't live, you know, an hour outside of town anymore and have him maintain his job and do everything else. So that was a horrific experience for us. But anyway, I couldn't just let my horse be there a mile away and not go visit him. So I would get myself out of bed. I don't think I washed my hair but once every 4 or 5 days. I got myself out of bed and I went to the sanctuary where he was. And at first I went, you know, 5-6 days a week. Then it was like 4 or 5 days because I couldn't. I was dying. I was in the process of dying. I didn't know. I just thought I was tired because of the medication. And I went there. Pretty soon it was 3-4 days a week, 2-3 days a week. And one day I was talking with my horse, just loving on him. And I turned around and there were 13 horses all lined up in a semicircle, the way you see in the old Western movies where the Indians are going to give you a message. This is the last message you're ever going to get, you know, and they all have all their feathers and regalia and everything on and their spears and everything. And there were 13 horses. I counted them. Woo! And I'm like, nobody will ever believe this. What? And then I just stood there for a while. And of course, I couldn't hear anything. And I thought, this is crazy. And I walked away. Well, what I didn't realize in that moment that I realized under hypnotic regression was I left my body. The 13 horses, so there were about 30 horses in that pasture. I left my body with the horses. They took me, I don't know, I never asked where, in some realm. And there were all kinds of horses there. And they said, you're going to die, don't die. I'm like, what? You're going to die, don't die. There's something important you have to do. And when I heard that, that reminded me of my near-death experience when I was 3 months old. And Creator said, no, you have to go back. There's something important you have to do. So I don't remember, in that regressive experience, it was just so mind-blowing. I don't remember too much more detail than that. But so in my near-death experience, which was shortly after that, when they said, don't you remember there's something important you have to do, I came right back in my body. So when I woke up, I just immediately, I guess I had several strands of DNA turned on, several, because I can see some pretty amazing stuff. I can see multidimensionally. I can communicate with multidimensional beings. I know the answer to a lot of stuff I shouldn't, but it's mostly about our soul, our life experience, our trauma, unforgiveness. I mean, the stuff that meat and potatoes that we really need right now. You know, I'm not one that gives sort of flowery messages. I'm a more sort of a, you know, let's get to work. Let's do this kind of a person, you know. And so that was the experience that led to my having my ability. So thank you, Dani, for allowing me to finish. And I just want to say, Andrea mentioned one of the videos that I'm in, and there are 50, 60, I don't know how many of me on the internet. This one was either May or July 2019 at Chicago IANDS, which IANDS, International Association of Near-Death Studies.
That's beautiful. Ginny, I want to stay with you for a few more minutes because you mentioned the NDE, the near-death experience you had when you were 3 months old. And I would love you to share that briefly. But also, Ginny, would you like to share the work you do with the Oversoul and explain the Oversoul and the jelly beans? Is that something that you would be happy? Because I honestly feel that that would be so helpful for people. Would you like to do that?
Sure.
Okay, so the 3-month-old baby one first, and I will be right back, guys. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Well, I was obviously born to a young woman who wasn't married. And when her father found out she was pregnant, he threw her down a set of stairs out of the house and kicked her out of the house. So my life was threatened in utero. And I was very unwanted, and there was a lot of terror and fear, and the family dynamic was not great. So I knew in the womb already that I was in trouble. So I waited until I actually did come into the fetus momentarily, the tiniest fraction of me. And I waited around outside mostly. I wasn't in the body because I didn't want to feel the anger, the hatred, the vitriol, the fear, you know, the exhaustion, the frustration. So when I was 3 months old, I had an out clause, and that, you know, out clauses on our agreement generally are okay. So if you want to, in your free will, choose to end your life at this time, here's a possible choice that you can make. And so I had one at 3 months old. So I got whooping cough. There were some dogs we lived in a very poor community. She stayed with her grandmother and an aunt that convinced her to keep the baby. She was supposed to be sent away, give the baby up for adoption, and she would come back to the parents and go to college. It just so happened her mother was pregnant at the same time as me, and I didn't find this out until I was in my 20s. So I was born and the baby was born, I think within a week or so, don't quote me on that. And the mother's baby died. So my grandmother's baby died and I lived. And that caused a tremendous, significant trauma in my family. And my mother was supposed to give me up for adoption, and our poor relations convinced her to keep me, which I was hoping, I think, as a soul, that she would give me up for adoption. And that timeline was that I would be adopted by a lovely family that had, you know, middle class, traveled around the world, open spiritually, and I would have had a totally, completely different life. But when she didn't give me up for adoption, I died when I was 3 months old. I would turn blue. I was packed in ice in a tent. And I went to this, just like the void. It is literally where you're not trapped in any holographic matrix, right? You're not forced to go to any in-between space. You go make your own choice as a soul, where you want to go, what you want to do. And the voice of Creator was there. And he right away said, you have to go back. And I said, no, you don't understand. No, I am not going to live this life. It's going to be horrific. I'm going to be abused, traumatized. No good can come from this. And we fought back and forth 7th or 8th time. And on about the 8th time, I was screaming, I was yelling, I was hysterical. And I said, I won't survive. I cannot survive this. He said, I will make you stronger so that you can survive. So if it hadn't been for that 3-month near-death experience where whatever he did to me gave me a little boost of confidence or whatever, some internal knowing or connection, even though I, in my consciousness, was completely disconnected, in my lucidity, you know, completely disconnected from that understanding and awareness, he helped me to be able to survive. And I credit that to the fact that I wasn't a prostitute, a drug addict, an alcoholic, in jail, whatever that might be.
Who was the he?
The Creator.
And what did he look like to you?
So that 3-month-old experience, I remembered under a spontaneous, hypnotic, regressive experience. It wasn't supposed to be a regressive session. It was supposed to be an intuitive body worker. It's not like a full body massage, but someone who touches your body and taps into the nervous system and helps you intuitively that way. And when this woman tapped into the back of my heart chakra, that's where her hands were, in the thoracic spine, I was propelled into that space, and I was hysterical, more hysterical than I've ever been past 10 years old. And I'm 56. I can't remember sobbing so violently, being breathless, being so terrified, just terrified in that experience. Dani, it was a black velvety space, and I just heard a voice coming from everywhere. I didn't have a form. I didn't see anything, or at least I haven't remembered that part. What I remembered was the hysteria and the terror. Yeah.
Sounds like this desperate petitioning to come home rather than come into this realm, or this video game, or this spaceship we call Earth. Darling Andrea.
Just want to mention what Ginny shared there, because I think it's really important for people listening to realize that, you know, you can have memories come up from just going for a massage, from someone massaging your myofascia will trigger past life memories, inner child memories, you know. So when you go for body work, sometimes, I mean, years ago, I ended up giving a talk once to the Spa Business Association in the UK. And, you know, I was talking about how some of these girls were fairly new therapists. They'd learned conventional massage, and some of them didn't know their own skills and powers that they had to be massaging people. And, you know, totally unaware that in massaging someone, exactly what Ginny shared can come up. Deep trauma memories can come up for someone. And you know, you need to, one, understand what's happening for you. And also, if you're listening, you're a therapist and you're fairly new to doing massage or myofascia, which is the, you know, just the myofascia of your skin, you're triggering memories for people. And sometimes you don't realize what power you have in bringing those memories up, and to create the safe space for yourself to experience what Ginny experienced, a big memory coming up, or as a therapist to be, you know, ooh, what happened for this person? You know, understand that deep memories and trauma are coming up. Like I had an experience once, and it was actually in Cornwall, and this woman was massaging my buttocks. Now, since I was doing this, oh, you've got some trauma really stuck there. And she was massaging my, and poof, big flashback to being an African woman with one leg. You know, and after that, I had firing problems, like my muscle wouldn't fire properly in my leg for quite a while, in my hip. And then I had to work through that myself, because she didn't know how to clear it. She just knew how to trigger that flashback memory, but I had to work through it on myself to process that. So what I would say to other people is, sometimes people may trigger a memory for you, and you're not going to have our skills or Ginny's skills or my skills to realize what's happening and to process it. But you need to realize that sometimes people doing that are unwittingly bringing up a memory for you, and that you might need to go and seek some help to process that. Because if you can't process it in your own time, sometimes that memory can be stuck with you and will manifest as a physical issue in your body. And if you go and seek some other further help, that will move very quickly out of your body.
That's amazing. Yeah, go ahead, Ginny.
Well, I just want to say, so I'm very clairvoyant, and I've been on a very aggressive seeker's journey since my NDE, because I've wanted to understand what all of this stuff is that I'm seeing. So I was very, very open, very clairvoyant, you know, clairaudient and everything. And as she had her hands on the back of my, on my back, I said, I'm seeing a small baby. Why am I seeing a baby? And when I said that, that's when I was propelled into the space. So it was very clear, you know, I understood after then. I said, oh, now that makes sense why I have had a core anger in me, why in my life I was so quick to anger, because I was livid with the Creator. Make no mistake, I think I might have won the prize on the planet for being mad at Creator that day. I mean, I had it going on, you know, and to carry that and to not know why I was so quick to anger. So that was very helpful for me. It was truly a gift for me. But had I not been on such a journey every single day since my near-death experience, all I've done is have conversations like this with people, with anybody that will listen, you know, and mostly I had to pay them a lot of money. And most people didn't really understand me, because I was seeing so far beyond their 40 years of whatever training they had. They just weren't that far down the road. They didn't have that many strands of DNA turned on, you know what I mean? So had I not had that experience, I would have definitely needed some psychotherapy or assistance.
You know, again, thank you for giving us the extreme example that really does assert any other training on the planet in terms of who do we think we are, in terms of actually arguing with the Creator. because we're so programmed to think that we're so many layers and levels down. There's all these men in skirts and dresses doing things they shouldn't be doing on the planet, putting themselves in religious, occult group situations that keep us, the general people, down, and in particular women globally, which is a fact that we know. And we're not going to go into that subject today. But that you actually, as a 3-month-old soul infant, were trying to come back into source because you came from source, which is God, creator energy, or gods, or whatever people want to call it. Oh, now my lights are going out. How funny is that? Not. But I love that you had the courage to confront and to say no, no. And there's a respect, there's a respect for that, and there are some people that will be like, now, these are the most dangerous people on the planet right now. The little minions, the little bitchy, nasty people that think because they've read the Bible or they've read another scripture or sacred document, and they've been told that we must obey. You must obey. Otherwise, you'll go to the hairy hells of hell. All that. They are the nastiest, most spiteful. They're the ones who are messing with us on BoobTube right now. They're the ones who are blocking PayPal or paying people back out of your account when you've already done a service for them. They're the most dangerous, most spiteful people. And when the tide turns on this planet, and when the light floods, and when all of the love of the planet and everyone comes to the fore, those people think there's a place for them. There ain't no place for them. They're going to have to really look at their manners and stand in the corner, because they're not going to go on a whatever journey with the satanic whatever this and that. Okay, there go my lights again. Go away. But anyway, I wanted to give you another kind of look at a massage. So when someone's physically touching your body, when you're a clairvoyant, let's say. So I just moved to Costa Rica a year and a half ago or so, October 2020. And I'm having this massage. My body's so locked up. It's carrying whatever it's carrying, trauma and stress and grief. And I find this lovely, lovely lady. And she's very spiritual, which is why I picked her. But she's massaging on me, and I'm just laying there. And all of a sudden, I see a cat walk past the front of the massage bed. I'm like, oh my God, that was a spirit cat. And I said, hi. And then I'm like, oh, please don't bother me. I really need this massage. I so need this massage. Next thing, the bloody cat in spirit is jumped up on my back and has wrapped itself around my neck while this lady is massaging me. And honestly, I laid there thinking, oh, for fuck's sake, can I please just have this massage? And then I'm lying there and I'm saying to myself, Dani, don't be such a selfish cow. This cat obviously belongs to this lady. So I said to this lady at the end of the massage, I said, can I ask you a question? Yes. I said, did you lose a cat recently? And she went, she said, I did lose a cat. And I said, well, I want you to know your cat's in spirit, and your cat was been laying on my back for half of the massage. This lady went into what we call the ugly cry. She lost it. She was like, bless her heart. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like giving her a hug. And even though I've just had my massage, I'm giving her a hug and patting her on the back and rocking with her like, it's all right, it's all right. When she finally came up for air, this beautiful woman told me that 3 days earlier, her dogs ripped the cat to pieces. And that cat was so special that she was, every day, this woman who didn't have kids of her own could never wait to get home to see that cat in particular. That was her person, that was her being, that was her love. And the dog, she'd also rescued the dogs, and they lived as a happy family. There was never an issue. The cat ruled the house, everyone did as they were told. But on this one day, for some reason, these dogs murdered the cat. And this lady was just beside herself. She couldn't cope or deal. And then there I am saying, oh, it was kind of, so your cat's in spirit, your cat's very, very free. That little one is around you. She's helping with your massages now. She's bringing healing. She was on the back of my neck, and that was beautiful. So that can also happen.
Yes,
in a massage.
I had that happen, but mine wasn't a massage. I mean, this is the thing. When we hold this energy and this knowledge and wisdom and insight of what we can see, sometimes you just have to accept what is. It's like, here I am having a colonic, I'm just going to have a colonic. But no, now the colonic therapist over this. I've got a, pipe up my bottom now, counselling the colonic therapist. It's like, it just is what it is. You've just got to go, oh, do you know what? This is our lives, and this just is how it is. And you just, sometimes you just have to accept it, don't you? It's just.
It happens a lot. It happens a lot to me, and I kind of love it, and as long as it's not intrusive to the other person, if the person is open, I'm always asking permission, but sometimes we do get tired, and we've all said, sometimes people send that sort of nasty email. I have found anytime I've tried to just establish some type of reasonable boundary for people not to continue, to contact me 100 times before they book a session, and now all of a sudden we're friends and they're texting me in the middle of the night and I can't sleep, I'm just trying to create some type of a boundary. And then, as you were talking about, Andrea, earlier, there's, trigger, or I'm sorry, Dani, was it you, where people are being triggered and they're communicating through their own trauma, right? It happens. It certainly does happen.
Yeah, and people can, I think sometimes people, I hope this lady doesn't see this, but people can manipulate you. Like when I broke my ankle, there was a lady who decided she was just going to show up at my house, and it wasn't really appropriate because it wasn't really about helping me. And I'm now stuck in my house with this broken ankle and healing it naturally, but I've had to leave the door unlocked so that people can just come, and this lady took it upon herself to just pop to my house, but every time she came she ended up crying and offloading a whole story onto me.
Come on.
And I had to say to her, do you know what, I'm really struggling with this ankle right now, and you just keep showing up at my house and telling me your whole stuff, and you're just offloading on me, and you don't text me or ask me if it's appropriate. And I have to say, and it was hard for me to say this, but I said, I have to really say, can you stop doing this and stop coming? Because I really can't deal with your stuff right now. I'm not seeing any clients. And that's the thing. Once you as a therapist are used to giving and helping people, sometimes the universe, makes you go, okay, you're going to see nobody and you're just going to focus on you right now. And there'll still be somebody who tried to go, I need something from you. And it's like, I'm learning to say no. My lesson is to learn to say no. And, and that's a way of taking your power back. And sometimes it feels hard to take your power back and say no, but we have to do that, And as other people who are listening, who are newly on their healing journey or further along, it is, it's a life lesson. And if you're going to have a public profile, which in these days, everybody has a public profile because we're all on social media and Facebook. And I see people who are newly working in this field. And one of the lessons is to learn boundaries. You're not being cruel, you're not being mean. Sometimes you just have to say no.
Yeah. And that's a really important point. And I get some people that email me even now, and they're just so aggressive. They are aggressive, they are unkind. They are extremely in Martyrville. They're complete martyrs. They're utter victims. And there are people that have this entitled energy that you have to help them. My lights keep flashing, ladies. So if we just continue, if I get bounced off. And people must learn, we are still human beings. We are still going through our own journeys. We are not superior to them. We may be more experienced in metaphysics in some areas, but we are not superior. But maybe we have better manners, though. I will say that, and because, it is an intrusion, but then look at the programming in society. There is a lie. The lie is that spiritual people should not earn money. Well, then neither should lawyers and doctors and judges and some of the most corrupt people. Neither should they, because if you're in trouble and you need a lawyer, that lawyer should give it to you for free because they're a lawyer. Same logic. right?
Well, I have a great story that'll make you giggle. So this lady was in Sedona. This is when I was running workshops in Sedona, and she was a little bit of an older lady, and she said, "Oh, I'd love to come to your workshop, but I can't afford it. And sometimes I'll give places for free to my, you know, to people to come to workshops." And then I just felt, oh, should I give her a free place or not? I don't know, you know, maybe there's somebody else who needs it more. Anyway, the next time I see her, I hardly recognize her. She's had that much surgery. She looks like, you know, and I said, wow, I thought you had no money. She said, darling, there's always money for surgery. And I was like, okay. I said, well, why did you couldn't afford to come to my workshop that was about self-worth and self-esteem, actually, but you could afford thousands, which is obviously this thing has cost a lot of money. And she said, yeah, but darling, I need a man. And so she really thought that if she got her face done, this would enhance her chances of getting a man, rather than, you know, $100 to me compared to this must have cost at least 20 grand, this whole face thing, you know, then seeing that actually perhaps had she done the inner work, she may have still met a gentleman, but somebody who wanted to be with her because she's a beautiful soul, not because she looks like she's been through a wind tunnel. And, you know, and then you think, here's me thinking, oh, this poor woman, shall I give her a free space? When actually, often people do have the money, but it's what they value, and they're not going to value you. You know, they're not going to see value in what you've gifted to them.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's such a big lesson to people who, you know, I have people write to me. Some of them say, oh, I don't charge. I could never charge. Why? Do you not eat? Well, do you live in the country? Do you not have a house? I mean, come on, get real. Get real. You know, for me, I spent a lifetime qualifying as a therapist, training in metaphysics, paying hundreds of thousands of whatever. No, I haven't spent 100,000 on myself. I know people that have. I know you have, Ginny. I've spent thousands and thousands on taking different courses and classes, and thousands on my own training and studying and qualifying. And, you know, balls. I'm not going to, you know, justify. But what I will say to people, that if you are qualified and you've done your inner work and you can genuinely put yourself in a position where you can do readings with people or therapy sessions with people, do it and charge them. And once in a while, like I did, I think one of the last things I did was this lovely lady in Denmark. It took her so much to get the money together to have an hour session with me. And I could literally feel how hard it was for her. So I refunded her, you know, and that's my decision. I refunded her. Now she's coming to the conference. You know what I mean? Which is going to big her up, and it's going to ramp her life and consciousness up 50-fold, you know? But, you know, she wasn't like playing the poor church mouse and saying, I haven't got the money. I just knew and respected how hard that was for her. Like you say, Andrea, that others, they just take advantage. I say to my friends, I've had no more readings for free. No, you want a reading, book a session. Stop taking advantage. I'm way better at it now. I never used to be, but you learn. You know, you learn, because that's in us going into victim and martyr mode. Oh, it's my friend. You know, some people, of course, you give it. Of course you do. But you have to discern each one, you know. It's like people saying, oh, turn the other cheek. No, if someone comes up to you and starts giving you a kicking, don't take it. You know, you give them a slap back. Let them know. Let them know, ho. No. You know, oh, she's advocating violence. No, I advocate defending the physical boundaries of the spirit, the soul, and the human vessel. That's what I advocate. You know, and the thing is, where three of us now are being so closely monitored, and people are looking for things. Oh, you said this and you said that. Move along. You know, and someone puts a silly comment, I just delete it. You don't have to watch me and the people that come on my beautiful channel, honestly. And some of the things we raise, they are a little bit triggering, but that's good, because we're all on a healing journey. So if you get pissed off at something that we say or I say, look at that. Why are you triggered? It's not because we're being three bitches here, you know, trying to really upset. It's that we're here giving our wisdom for free. Everything on my channel is for free. How many people have sat for hours and hours giving away their skills, their psychological gifts, their spiritual gifts? That right there, you beautiful people out there, that's a treasure box. The Dani Spiritual Therapist YouTube channel is a treasure box, as is Andrea Foulkes', as in Ginny Jabslonski's.
And the other thing sometimes, I mean, I used to get this more, not so much now, but I mean, people do still do it, but they'll ask you questions like in Messenger or something, and you say, I've actually answered those in all my free videos. So if you go and watch the free videos, I can't tell you exactly which one it is, but I have answered all those questions you've got in all those free videos. That they're all answered. And they're like, well, I don't want to watch those videos. Just tell me the answer.
Right, or send me the link.
Yeah, send me the link, tell me this, tell me that. Sometimes I felt people have treated me like Google, or I'm some travel operator. Like, I see you've been in Sedona. Now, when I go to Sedona, where should I stay? What should I do? I don't know. What's your budget? I don't know how much money you want to spend on accommodation. I don't know whether you want to be in a hotel, self-catering. I don't know you. I don't know what you want, but I'm not a tour guide. I'm not a travel rep, you know, but people project onto us. Or, oh, you made a post about, it's not actually what I do for a living. It's something else. Say, I've recommended some face cream. I'm not on any commission. It's no affiliate marketing program. I've just said I thought this was great. Now, you mentioned this cream, it was 6 months ago, and it was a post about this and this, and I go, yeah, I think if you scroll back, it was May. You might find it somewhere in May. Well, can you find it for me? No, you want it from me, so you scroll back and you find it.
Yeah.
And I think what we get to see is the nuances of, and hopefully, if you're one of those people who's been triggered by what I'm saying now, then look at that in you. It is entitlement. It's exactly what Dani said. It's this entitlement energy. And we're not here to be a servant for you. And it's also take responsibility for yourself. You know, I get people who say to me, how much is a session? How much is this? I say it's all on my website. Have a look, because actually it's all there for you. But they say I can't find it. Well, I mean, if you can't find the link for the session, then I probably can't help you, because there's something going on in you that's sabotaging it.
Yes. All right, I have to share. And I'm sorry, but this is just this is the epitome of it. I got a message on Facebook by someone who had messaged me a couple of times. Hi, I'm really, thank you for your work. Oh, you're welcome. Maybe I'd love to have you to my place to do a workshop. Oh, thank you. Let me know when you can talk. Never can talk, but always asking questions through Messenger. Okay, well, let's talk. Well, I can't really, it's not a good time. I'm not really sure if I want to do it. Okay. And then constantly contacting me. And so one morning, it's like 5 in the morning. I said, please excuse my voice. I haven't had my cup of tea yet, but I'm responding to you. And so I don't have to type, and if you really want to work with me, this is how it should be done. I don't do multiple animals at one time. I can't do your entire herd of horses. I work in integrity. I honor the soul and da, 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 da. Okay. Thank you. And then, she continued to ask me questions or what have you, and gave me a really long message. And then at the end, so if I ever work with you, da, 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 da. And I'm just like, okay, I'm not responding to that. Then she sent a link to a post that she made. And it was a post where she shared somebody's beautiful writing. I mean, it wasn't like Khalil Gibran, but it was something feminine, empowering or whatever. That to me, it's like, that is not even part of my world. Like, you know what I mean? It just doesn't even resonate with me. So I responded, and I'm juggling 100 clients at any one time with emails and trying to really support people in my own life and my own animals. And I said, thank you so much for thinking of me, but you really don't need to send me these types of things. I don't have a personal assistant, and social media takes a lot of my time. She was so upset by that. She said, oh, there's a point to me sharing this. This is a huge point. I think all of you are going to want to talk about or chime in on. She says, how dare you speak to me like that? I felt your energy like a ton of bricks. I'm going to pray for you that you have more time. You really need to consider the way you talk to people, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was horrific. It was this long thing. What a waste of time even reading it. And I said, you do understand, having been on a spiritual journey, that your reaction to me is about you, not me. Blah, blah, blah. And then she went on and on and on. And then she unfriended me, so I couldn't respond. But
that's so annoying.
this is what I want to bring up here. There are so many people out there that talk about, oh, I can't be in a room with this person because their energy is like this, or somebody else's energy is like that, or if my dog doesn't like somebody, I don't like them. Well, what if the dog is just trying to alert you that the person is being molested by their father, or they have an entity on them, or you know what I mean? It's not so black and white. And if I don't resonate with your energy, then you don't get a seat at my table, or, you know, these types of posts. And these are people who have no concept, no discernment, they cannot tell if what they're feeling belongs to them or someone else, or if what they're feeling from someone else even belongs to that person.
Right.
You know, there's no level of discernment. But like you were mentioning, Andrea, oftentimes people are at the beginning of their journey and they have all this new, beautiful, flowery language, and they want to be positive and supportive, and they just have no clue how traumatized, you know, they really are. But they're out there trying to teach or counsel without being invited or being given permission. And it's just really crazy. And that's why one of the things I do, talk about self-awareness, talk about self-responsibility, talk about self-empowerment, how to manage our own energy, give people tools so that you don't get caught up in the torrent of blame and shame and competition and, oh, it's all your fault. Because I can guarantee you, I've spent my husband's life savings making sure I'm not dripping with anger. Thank you very much. Right? I mean, I have done, I'm not saying that I might not get upset or what have you, but I guarantee you that my response to you had nothing but a frequency of trying to be balanced and grounded and set reasonable boundaries that are appropriate. It wasn't laced with anger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can. I mean, I've had it so much over the years because I've had 20 odd years of it. I mean, one of the craziest ones, I mean, hopefully this lady won't hear it, but I'm not naming her or anything. But this woman had, you know, when you think about how social media works, you know, people have friended me. I did not friend them. So this woman friends me. And then one day she writes on my wall in my comment section, Andrea Foulkes, I've had enough of you and your opinions. And I said, well, you're actually on my wall. So if you don't like what I'm going to say, just unfriend yourself, because I'm going to keep saying what I want because it's my wall. Now, this woman is a spiritual teacher and this gets worse. So anyway, eventually I was at an event where she was, and I thought, I wonder if she knows who I am. I don't know. So I was just kind and nice to her because I thought whatever's going on in her head is really funny. But the sad thing about this is she blocked me. This is years and years ago. And then a dear friend that was a mutual friend of all of us, there was a celebration of her life online. And I said to one of the other admins, I can't join your celebration of life because the woman hosting it blocked me years ago, and you need to get her to unblock me so I can join this celebration of this woman's life, which is, you know, it shows you how much our energy, you know, you're just sat there just minding your own business in your own little Facebook wall, doing your own thing, posting your comments and things and whatever, and you're triggering people. But you're not just triggering people, you're triggering other people who are spiritual teachers. And for whatever reason, something in you is triggering stuff in them. I mean, I've had people screaming at me in messages or ring me up and hurl abuse. I mean, one day, I won't say who this lady is. Here's another story. So I'm sat here, it's a Sunday, some other woman who's really well known in what she does. And over the years became on a spiritual journey. So I post something on somebody's page. It was a comment about something, and this obviously upset this lady, and she didn't agree with me. So I do my classic, well, let's agree to disagree thing. You know, you're entitled to your opinion, I'm entitled to my opinion. As far as I know, she doesn't have my number. All of a sudden my phone rings on a Sunday. I answer the phone. It's this woman. She hurls abuse at me down the phone, and just as I'm about to reply, she slams the phone down. The next time I see her is at another friend's birthday party where she sits next to me, and I go, hi, and I just pretend it's like this hasn't happened, and she just totally blanks me.
For God's sake, it's incredible.
So we trigger people. Once you realize there's something in your energy field, you're like, what is it? What have I done? What is it? I've actually done nothing other than just hold the frequency that you hold, and in you holding that frequency, you know, you are going to trigger stuff in people. And I'm saying this story because it's not just me, Dani and Ginny, that this is happening to. There's going to be people listening that this happens to, but you maybe don't have the awareness to think, what on earth have I done to trigger this person to either shout at me, or, you know, write me a nasty email, or, you know, ring me up and hurl abuse at me down the phone. But I think the fact that we need to talk about this, because everybody's got a public profile these days, and it's so easy to, you know, contact somebody and go, blah, 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 you know?
Yeah, there's two things there. There's number one, there's two ways of looking at this. Number one, there are people on the planet that are known as activators. They're activators. They trigger people. They piss them off for absolutely no reason they can fathom themselves. They come in a room, their energetic frequency just sets people off, and people do not like them, and they don't know why, you know, and off you go. I have one such friend, I shall not name her. She's remarkably intelligent, very beautiful, things that irritate other women and some men, you know, who are intimidated by very accomplished, intelligent, beautiful people, males and females. So she activates, and she said so many times, she's like, oh my God, and we just laugh about it now. I said, who did you piss off now? I'm joking with me, because it's nothing consciously genuine that she's doing, and she's a brilliant woman. She's an author. I love her so much. The other way to look at this is there are people with no boundaries. Again, the entitlement to be able to attack. So you can see my beautiful background here. I love to share this. I am not in any way bragging about how fortunate I am to have this background in the place I just happen to be living right now in the world. Okay, I love to share it, and I love to look at it. Okay, so you know the thing about the English, the British, and again, I was raised there. The place was, who do you think you are? Stop showing off. You know, always putting people down. It's a wonder any child that grew up there in the 70s, like I did, has any self-confidence, because that has been the damning and the bashing down, you know. Anyway, a person that I call them imports and exports. So if someone divorces out of your family, no matter who they are, they're an export. And anyone that marries into your family, my family is massive. We've got Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and England in the main. I call them an import. So someone that married into my family went for me, and I was so shocked. And it was just because I did a Facebook post with this background, and I was leaving some kind of a, I don't know, remember to breathe in, breathe out today, remember how beautiful you are, you know, I know everyone's going through a tough time right now, I just want to send you love. It was just something like that. So this import, she sent me a message, and we've never had a crossword, never. And she said, what effing planet are you on? And I was absolutely, I could have been, it was like being hit by a car. I was so shocked, and I was so hurt. And I cried. So it made me cry several times, actually, because I couldn't believe, because I trust this person, love this person. And that she felt she could do that to me, and she did it. And honestly, it took a little bit of time for me. I have really had to practice what I preach. I really had to feel the anger, the rage, and everything that triggered in me. And now I swear, my hands to the gods, I just send her love. I do. I really do. I've got past it. And if I hadn't, what I could have created would have been a rift in my family. You know, I don't argue with my parents or my siblings. We don't argue. We have discussions. We have healthy boundaries. If we're in a subject that we don't want to go any further into, we back off, because we're all educated enough and emotionally mature enough to figure out, I don't need to force you to bend to my will or believe what I believe. I'm very lucky that way, very, very lucky, but we've all done a hell of a lot of work on ourselves. But had I, you know, this person's another part of the family, but I could have created uncomfortable feelings or whatever, you know. So again, guys out there, like, look at that. Like, are you someone who's activated by somebody in your family? Are you someone that just has to have a pop? You just have to write something mean. On that, before I come back to you, Ginny, I was listening to someone, I think it was Sean Atwood, who I'm interviewing tomorrow. Sean Atwood is a guy that used to be a very wealthy man on the stock market, got into raves, got into drugs, and went to prison for selling drugs. Fascinating character, has a YouTube channel called True Crime Stories, an author, very successful man, a sweetheart as well. And so I'm interviewing him, and I think it was him the other day saying to someone that, you know, but like people just attacking for no reason, people saying, you know, really mean things. And I actually lost my train of thought again, because I've got ascension brain. It's no longer jelly brain. I'm now calling it ascension symptoms brain. So anyway, I am interviewing Sean Atwood tomorrow. What were we saying though? Why did I talk about him though? Why did I bring him? Because maybe
I suppose maybe because he is another person who's just appeared from nowhere, but he's been consistent, putting his stuff out there, you know, interviewing absolutely fascinating people, and you know, he's had an amazing life experience, isn't he? And he's got himself out of it, you know, and I don't know, people just, and he's a jolly person, isn't he? He's really jolly. And I think people just want to have a pop at you, because I think they want to do sometimes what you're doing, but there's something in them doesn't believe they have it. And it's a form of jealousy. And when you don't believe that what somebody else has, you can find within yourself, then I think you want to take somebody else down and have a pop at them. And it's a form of weird kind of jealousy and admiration, but it all gets really horrible and distorted.
Well, some people want to influence you with what they think you don't know that you need to know, but you must name their name when you do say that thing, and you must say that thing, because without them, you couldn't get any further forward. There is that kind of thinking. I've come across that too, you know, and it's like, no, missus, don't tell me, like, period, don't tell me what to do. You know, if that sounds arrogant, I'm fine with that. Then it's arrogant. That's your decision and your opinion, but I won't be handled, controlled, told what to think. You know, I will make my own mind up, because it is my own mind, you know. And Ginny, what do you have to say about this kind of meandering around the subject of jealousy and attack that we're now finding ourselves in?
Dani, you need to listen to me, because I went to a 3-day retreat, and I'm a priestess, damn it. You know, that's tired.
That's one of the biggest ones too. Oh my God.
It's so hard to deal with the spiritual arrogance. And look, I'm more than 10% down the path, I think, you know, I mean,
you think?
Honestly, I cannot begin to tell you how much inner excavation. If I get upset at seeing a piece of dirt on the sidewalk, I ask what is going on inside of me, you know. And to be lectured and to be counseled by people who, you know, went to a 3-day workshop, you know, come back and talk to me in a decade.
Or 50 years. Like, seriously. It's funny, isn't it? The things that, you know, you learn on your spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, human journey. I have met several men who have been absolutely in the beginning so lovely and so sweet and so like, oh, Dani, you're so clever. You're so smart. Wow, you know so much. And then the minute they're in the front door, the dominance, the pulling apart, the attack, the insults, the why do you need to learn more? You know, the inferior complex that I might know something more than them. Like, you know, that's not a person I'm ever going to be with, ever, in a million gazillion years. And anything like that would never last, and never has lasted, clearly, ever. You know, when we're, you know, our brains are our brains, our minds are our minds, and we're allowed to learn whatever we want. There are people watching this now who will feel triggered because their religion doesn't say that, or their husband doesn't say that, their rabbi, their vicar, their pope, whatever, doesn't say that. We have to come into alignment and do as we're told. No, we don't. Who the heck said we have to do as we're told? The system did. The system said that, and the system can kiss my hairy ass, quite frankly, and it's all coming down and falling apart. So ladies, I know we kind of got off some of the subjects. We were like soul agreements, confidence. I know we started with the Lord is my shepherd, their very strong, powerful prayer. Again, that we can say, even if I'm not a Christian, I get to choose that. I don't need to ask another Christian's permission if I say or refer to the Lord's Prayer. I can do whatever I like. You see, that there will like really piss people off. No, Jesus didn't know. You don't know that because you never met Jesus and you never sat down and he didn't say, no, sorry, Dani can't say the Lord's Prayer. These are the things we've got to start taking apart in our own minds. Everyone, I urge you, please. This is the, as you said, the spiritual excavation, the archaeological dig on self, for self, you know, and stop listening to all of the old paradigms. There's so many people, in my opinion, who've been running my planet, your planet, our planet, who are so jammed and they're so stuck in 2D. Their intellect, their intelligence, their ability to love, their compassion, their everything, stuck in 2D. The rest of us, we're all moving on, moving out. We're leaving those buggers behind, and they are desperate to keep everyone stuck down with them.
And I think the other thing is, you know, your experience is your wisdom. You know, your experience is everything. That's all that matters, is your experience, you know. And, you know, I've seen this with you, you know, and you try and be polite. You're like, oh, and, you know, there's some 20-year-old who's at university studying something, telling you how life is. I'm like, oh, did you experience that? No, I read it in this book and that book and whatever. It's like, oh, okay. And I don't need to take them down or tell them the truth of how anything is. You just smile and go, oh, wonderful. You know, and you can see that they don't agree with you and they want to do you, but it's like, just let it go, because there are so many people. I mean, we could talk about these stories forever and a day. And I just think about another lady the other week who, I didn't even know she was in a group on Facebook about some other random subject completely. And then she decides that this post that I've made in this group is about her. I don't name her. It's not about her. And then she decides, because she knows me, that this post is about her. And I'm like, but I'm not aware of talking about you at all, ever. I don't know what this is. If I have done this, could you send me this post? So she sends me this post and I go, oh, I can see how what I've written might reflect aspects of your life. So if you want to be offended by it, be offended by it, but it's not about you. But what I realized from that this is one of these people who are the worst people on Facebook, because they don't ever comment on your page. They don't ever like your stuff, but they are voyeuring you. They are watching everything you do. Yeah. Now I know that you're watching me in some other group and I'm posting a comment in some other group, and you've decided that this comment is that I'm talking badly about you. It's nothing about you, but I can see how, when you've shown me what it is, how a facet of your life might actually, you know, adhere to that because you rent. It's insane, but this is how wounded people are, and how they decide that your post is, you've written this just to them, just to that one person, to try and attack them. I don't even know you. You know, I had a crazy lady, which she sent me 50 abusive text messages. Oh, they were so insane. And it was on a phone that is, you know, those phone messages. I have different phones. I've changed them now. But at the time, I had a phone where I couldn't actually block it. And this was a lady who'd met me twice in my life, once at a Naco Bear concert in Arizona and once in Ibiza. And she felt something in herself. I felt sorry for her because she's obviously struggling mentally, but she felt she had the right to send me 50 abusive text messages. So you have to understand that there are very wounded people out there, and they feel entitled to project everything at you, and it might be a past life thing. And I see it as a gift for us as therapists, and people who've chosen, for whatever reason, we are in the public profile, and you can't take back what you've done. You've put your head above the parapet now, and you are, you know, fair game to them to throw tomatoes at, or whatever it is they want to do. And we just get to realize that this is not the witch trials this lifetime. You know, we're rising above this lifetime. We're not in the stocks. We're not going to have, you know, things thrown at us, and we will survive everything that was thrown at us in other lifetimes. We're rising above all that now. So everything that you throw at people will come back at you, not at the people you throw it to. So people should bear that in mind, I think. And we have compassion for you, because our love and compassion for you is what creates a vibrational field to save us from your negative little arrows that you send.
There's a deal that was permeated and peppered into society for over 100 years. When the people who have the greatest fame, but found that fame by selling their souls, they made a contract with the devil that they cannot undo anymore. There's something that was seeded in the minds of the people that gave themselves permission to attack. And we've seen it in newspapers, and it's all designed to bring you down, but also to stop the light from going out, because the light ones are the ones that did have the persecution in past lives. And yes, it does trigger your inner cellular memory. However, me personally, I rebuke you past, present, and future. I rebuke you past, present, and future timelines, seen and unseen, known and unknown. I do not accept one single millisecond of an attack or an unkindness. And if anything comes in my space like that, it is automatically returned. I remain neutral in my space. I do not engage with that bullshit. Send me love, love comes back to you. Send me hate, hate comes back to you. By the time it gets back to your hairy ass, it'll be wound up in the energies that you sent out, and it will gather tenfold. You will have 10 layers of galloping gallstones if you send out hexes, right? So people must educate themselves now. They must understand the damage they do to themselves. You cannot protect yourself from your own energy. I saw this on that television show I was on in 29 and 10 and 11, or I think QVC. Anyway, it was like 8, 9, 10, those years. I witnessed people, witches, who knew the dark and the white arts, who purposefully sent out negative energy to people. I witnessed it with my own eyes. I also witnessed those women have their gifts taken. God, the gods, creator, whatever you want to call it, your gifts are removed from you if you abuse them. It's like giving a kid matches. You start lighting those matches on purpose, you're out of there. There are universal laws that over and supersede you and any religion or any following that you're in. Go ahead, Ginny.
I'm glad you brought this up. And by now, 2.5 hours, I don't know if anybody else is watching this at 2.5 hours.
Oh my Lord.
We've been on for a while. And by the way, we never got to the soul agreement. So one day we have to do a show on soul agreement. I'm sitting here just cracking up but you just brought up a subject that was one of the stories that I wanted to tell today. And one of the stories was about confidence. And the quote that I read you guys before the call was confidence. And that's what Andrea wanted to talk about today. But Dani, you said at the beginning of the show, and then you just came back around to it so perfectly, you cannot be protected from yourself. And so again, in full disclosure, all authenticity on my journey, I want to share what happened to me about not being able to be protected from myself. So of course, after my near-death experience, I listened to every podcast. I purchased every program out there. I listened to it all, even though they all contradicted one another. I downloaded, upgraded. I did everything. I had people I paid $5,000 to do, whatever, right? All of this stuff. One man, lovely man, he charges $1,000 an hour now. I don't remember how much he charged.
Wow. Then. Is he a brain surgeon? What does he do?
Anyway,
kidding.
He has a bit of a following and he has a gift. He really does. And people are going to know who I'm talking about because he's the only one that I've ever heard of use this language. So, and I'm not bashing him. This is nothing about him. This is about me. So I started following him a little bit. It was too much for me on my journey. I was trying to heal the self, and, you know, it was too much for me to be galactically aware, you know, and he has these revocations that people read, and he has some pretty genius stuff. Some of it is very hard to understand, but that might, you know, send away people who maybe shouldn't read it or what have you. He has this thing that he calls the spiritual court of equity. And he tells people, you know, if someone wrongs you or if something has happened, you create a spiritual court of equity. It's more complicated than that, but just for sake of the story, you create a spiritual court of equity and you send them there. And this is documented on the internet, you know, and it's in all kinds of writings and stuff. So I used to get visitations, negative greeting, psychic attack, you name it, when after my near-death experience. Some of it I perceived as an attack. It wasn't really an attack, and that's my story. So I decided, okay, I'm going to use this spiritual court of equity thing. So someone comes, you know, somebody's shadow or whatever, from some shadow archetype, you know, comes and like hovering over me like an umbrella or whatever. You know, it's because I'm in the darn archetype with them or whatever, but I didn't know. And I said, okay, so I create a spiritual court of equity, and whoever is responsible for this, I send you to the spiritual court of equity. Next thing I know, I'm in this cave-like, you know, courtroom place. And I'm like, what the actual fuck is happening? And I'm on trial in the spiritual court of equity. Wow. And then all of a sudden, and I'm like, get me out of here. And then, you know, like 10, 15, 20 minutes, you know, a couple hours later, I'm back in my body. And I'm like, what was that about? Well, I kept doing it. Stupid me. I didn't realize. I didn't know what I thought. I can't even speak to what I might have thought at that time. I kept being sent into the spiritual court of equity. It was me. And then finally I realized I was the one that was inviting, through whatever my belief was, through whatever my perceived karma or unworthiness or, you know, whatever that might have been. So I was inviting that, or I had maybe wronged them, or whatever it was. And it's very complicated and not simple. And I really shouldn't laugh about it, quite frankly. But I kept sending my own self. When I was saying, you know, whoever's responsible for this, why is this happening to me? I was in the spiritual court of equity. So I just wanted to share that with you, because I tell people all the time, they contact me all the time, clients all the time. Can you tell me how to protect myself? How do you protect yourself? And there is no protection from yourself.
I love that, because I think I know who you mean, because I think I've done videos with him, and I love a lot of his work. But yeah, I think what you're saying is eventually, for everybody, you have to face your darkest shadow self, you know, because you get to the point where, why on earth is this still happening to me? I can't understand, you know. For me, I mean, we're going into another time zone now, but like mine, that I brought up my darkest shadow self, because I just couldn't understand why I was drawing certain men into my reality. I was like, why is this still happening to me? You know, what is it that I've done? And then I said to myself, a bit like you with the spiritual court, mine was slightly different. Mine was like, show me the darkest of the dark that I've ever done. And poof, those Akashic records opened. And I was like, oh, you know, facing the darkest aspects of myself and what I've done in other timelines. And what I usually say is, in the beginning, people see where they've been victims. And then when you've worked through all that, or if you're evolved enough, then you'll see what you did, because you've got to face your shadow self eventually.
And you got to say to yourself in the mirror that you may have been a really bad person in the past.
And I was.
Right. And I have been too. I've talked about it. I have been too. And I think, you know, oh, I can't say that because what will people think? Who cares what people think? When you worry about what somebody thinks, they own a piece of your soul. They have a piece of your life force energy. Part of your life force energy is imprisoned with them. Like, come on, you know, It's good. This is all good stuff. We're all in the ascension. We're all waking up. There are people way more advanced than us that will still learn something from this little broadcast. There are people that are just barely on their spiritual awakening to their understanding who are way past all of this and will realize, oh my God, I know all of this already. You know what I mean? So there's a collective awakening, a collective love, there's a collective consciousness. We're all allowed to explore. We're all allowed to say whatever we like. We do not need permission from one other person. The only person that deserves our permission, our respect, and our love is us as we come into full healing. So let's bring this to a close, guys. I mean, we're just going to go on for another 60, 70 hours. So I know, you know what, we trust though. We trust we're guided. We ask, what can we bring to the public? We ask, what can we do? How can we support? How can we serve? How can we, you know, share today? And we've obviously been guided into this kind of conversation. But now...
Yeah, queens of tangents.
Yes, yes. But all pretty honest.
But it's all meant to be, because it's weaving in a way that is magical, because it's just organic, isn't it? It's just...
Definitely, definitely. So Ginny, I'm going to come to you for your final message and your final words, please.
If people don't know about the interview that Andrea and you did previously on self-inquiry and, you know, for tools for self-help, and you and I, Dani, have done one as well. It's so important right now for us to look at ourselves. If we are triggered, if we, you know, don't send the text, you know, if you need to write it out and get it out of your system, you know, that's what Abraham Lincoln used to do. If you've read any biography about Abraham Lincoln, right? He would write the scathing letter to the general in the war or whatever, and he would put it in his drawer. And a few months later, when it was all gone, he would throw the letter away. He wouldn't send. Don't hit send. Don't put the stamp on the letter. Don't allow yourself to buy into that. Anyway, my point is, we've done some videos on techniques where we can use self-inquiry to figure out what it is inside of us. Where is there a wound? Where is there unforgiveness? Where is there something that is not healed, that is triggering us to either need something from someone or need to be right and need to explain ourselves, whatever that might be. There are tools out there, and I have an idea that we're going to continue to maybe do some conversations like this and continue to share tools with people that are meat and potatoes, very helpful. And you don't even have to leave the comfort of your living room. You can wear your jammies and your slippers and your pigtails and enjoy.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ginny. Andrea Foulkes.
Ooh. Do you know, I just think, you know, I love this conversation with us, and I hope that people see in our interactions how, you know, you can talk and nobody has to talk over each other, and, you know, you all give people that space to talk. And I think what we're showing people is a beautiful way for women to communicate with each other. And I think that in itself is a gift that keeps giving.
That's so beautiful. And also, you know, to other women, you know, and men, you know, whatever platform you have, you know, find, like for me, you know, I think my platform, actually, I don't know, and it doesn't really matter. I think my platform here right now might be bigger in terms of numbers and viewers because of the people I interview than maybe you two, but I actually don't know that. So please forgive me if I've made an error in saying that right now.
I've been very lazy. I haven't made any. I don't know. I look at you and I think, it's amazing, because I have every intention to make YouTube videos, but I just don't always get around to it. And then I mean to upload them, and it's actually quite slow here to upload. But I love doing little Facebook lives sometimes when I feel like it. But you are so consistent, and I bizarrely don't seem to have that energy of being that consistent with it. And I really admire you doing that.
Thank you. And it's all right. And I'm happy to share. That's my point. And, you know, I'm happy to share with both of you because I know you're both friends first. And second of all, you have so much that can really support and help people going through all kinds of things right now that of course I would bring you on. And I would say to people out there, you know, look around your friend groups, you know, look around where there's good support, where there isn't. You know, if you don't have these kinds of friends in your life that love you, that support you, that want to share you, that will, you know, promote you, that will let you speak and have a voice, then maybe it's time to have a look at that friend circle. Because I believe no matter who we are, no matter what we have, we should all share in part, you know, with our friends, and never keep anyone back, and don't talk down to people. You know, if you don't like someone, don't engage with them, don't play with them. I think that's a really important point again to make, you know, and also to people, like, don't be scared to start your own channel. Just start it. If you've got something to say, just say it. You know, say it. It doesn't matter. We get so obsessed with, oh, TikTok and how many likes, and none of it matters. What matters is that you're sharing a vibratory resonance out there with humanity. We need help. We need your wisdom.
I did do a TikTok. I did a TikTok today.
Today?
I like the TikTok because you can do 15 seconds or a minute. And I go through phases of thinking, oh, I quite like TikTok, because I had to join TikTok because a lady wanted to interview me. So to interview me on TikTok, I had to do TikTok. But I quite like TikTok because it's 1 minute or 15 seconds. You have to be so precise to say something of influence in 15 seconds or 1 minute. But I don't do them I just do things when I feel like it.
All right.
You guys know that one more thing, Dani, I have to do this. You know, on the British shows where there's the old grumpy 80-year-olds and they're like, you know, saying sarcastic things back and forth to one another. Here's my moment. This is my moment. Dani, did you just actually say that you get more likes on your YouTube channel for other people you interview, not the two of us?
She said
she said it.
Sensational. No, I mean, when I'm on my own, you know, there's the people I interview. It's the people I interview. That's where the numbers come from. That's hilarious. I just got a bug in my head. That's hilarious. Oh my God. So
I only hear positivity.
Oh my God. So, Andrea, why do people talk about TikTok and mention the devil? Well, I missed that whole thing. Does anyone know about that? Apparently it's supposed to be, I don't know, we shouldn't do it because it's, I don't know, somebody was saying it's the devil, or it's, I don't know, does anyone know about that?
I don't know. I called it ticker-tocker, tricker-trocker. I like the ticker-tocker, tricker-trocker. And then just now and again, I didn't want to do it. And then I thought, actually, I really like this. It's 15 seconds.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, definitely going to bring this to a close now. To the beautiful people out there that have spent this much time with us, we hope that you've enjoyed this conversation, and again encourage you to, you know, start your own, just put your own stuff out there. Let's reach out to everyone, all of our brothers and sisters upstairs and downstairs. Send them love. Keep rebuking negativity around you. Again, I will say, you know, the Lord's Prayer, singing it or saying it, you could write it out, stick it under your bed. There is a massive shift of energy. There's a lot of attack going on, a lot of negativity. Just keep yourself clean and pure. You know, keep your thoughts loving. You know, keep reaching out and helping and supporting, but don't be a victim and don't be a martyr. I send you my love, you guys, and definitely we'll see you soon. Bye now.